Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
So, was full body swap on your bingo card for the Wheel of Time?
No! How
Was it on anyone's?
How in the world could have it been on the fucking bingo card that Rand was like, surprise, I'm saving my ally, my greatest enemy, in order to steal his body and have him die in my place, inside my corpse, is Moradin himself.
So I can fake my own death.
Fucking Rand has remained, from page 1 to the last page, he has remained the most dramatic, insufferable man in all of literature. Like, I'm so happy that you get to go and have peace, but did you have to body snatch Moradin in order for this to happen?
Yeah, like, you knew what was going to happen, presumably.
Yeah.
It's very, okay, this is Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast for one of the last times. This is Emily Jushaw.
And this is Sally Goodger.
And this is Tybalt in the background. I know you're wondering where the cats are.
I don't know where Ed is. Gone.
Ed came, ate his food, and immediately peaced out. We just read the epilogue here, which is short and has lots of points of view. Of course, the main thing is Rand emerging from the cave, carrying Moradin's body, although it's unclear now if Rand was already in Moradin's body and then Moradin was carrying Rand. You don't really
Can't really
know
imagine
at that
Moradin
point.
carrying Rand, but what do I know?
Well, like, Rand in Moradin's body carrying Moradin in Rand's body at that point. Like, has the body switch already been completed?
I guess I just, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying.
I don't know. And then them being unable to heal Rand or Moradin? Randorin. Any of the two boys, but then Moradin's body seems to be getting better while Rand's body seems to be debilitating.
Which implies that Rand is sucking his life force away.
Yeah, it sure is. It
Like,
sure is, isn't it?
That's just what it felt like to me. Like,
Yeah.
obviously they can't heal Rand because Moradin is sucking his life away.
Yeah.
Because they're connected like this.
There's, like, meant to be a lot of ambiguity, or I think the authors did not want to linger on the sort of mechanics of this, because body snatching Rand is such a horrifying concept when you, like,
Yeah.
put it under a microscope at all.
Yeah.
So they just are kind of, like, being hands-off ambiguous and not giving us Rand's point of view until it's already done with, and also not really cluing us in on how cognizant Rand is of what he's doing, or if this is just some sort of, like, magical effect that would have happened anyway because of their weird,
Kissing with tongue spiritually.
magic voodoo bond, plus the whole getting locked into the power together, you know? So, like, we're allowed to assign Rand whatever culpability we want. And I prefer to assign him a lot of culpability because...
To me, the whole thing read super intentional.
Yeah, and he does at least, like, know enough in advance to have Olivia prep some, like, getaway clothes and money for him. This is how Olivia, quote, helps Rand die, unquote. I'm not sure why Olivia had to do this instead of literally anyone else.
Why would you be Rand being like, hello, I'm going to body snatch my arch nemesis. Could you prepare some coinage for me? Olivia, woman I barely know.
And Olivia's like, I have been on this continent for 2 months, so I actually don't know how coinage works. And before that, I was enslaved, so I also didn't know how coinage worked. So I will steal so much money.
Yeah, Rand is like, she stole a lot of money.
Rand's like, she stole 30,000 American dollars, and I'm carrying that in my pockets. And I'm like, I mean, with this inflation, that's...
what will that buy you? A gallon of milk?
Yeah, for real.
3 granola bars?
Yeah, this is like a disappointing, I think, end to the Olivia insertion as a character. Olivia's only importance in the plot was to, quote, help Rand die, unquote.
Yeah.
And it's super unclear why, like, when there's a viewing or any sort of prophecy about someone, or really when anyone does anything, you want them to be doing it in a narrative, because they're the person who could do it. They're the only person who has that sort of thematic narrative significance to do it. And Olivia is just kind of a background character who, you know, she has immense channeling power, but that doesn't factor in at all.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on there with her, so weird.
Yeah, and it's not like she's been, you know, exceptionally loyal to Rand.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like Hurin or whatever who would have done anything for Rand.
Yeah.
So it's a little bizarre to me. Yeah, the prophecy mechanic in Wheel of Time, we've talked about this extensively, but when you have someone like Min giving prophecies nearly every chapter, because we're in her point of view and that's what happens, you're setting yourself up for failure, because there's no way to reach a satisfying conclusion for every single one of the 100 prophecies that Min gives throughout the series.
Yeah, you get some prophecies that really nail it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of what happens with Matt.
Yeah, so cool and fun.
And you get some prophecies that are just real flops, as with Olivia. And it's like, I'm willing to accept that to a certain extent, but here at the end of the entire narrative, I need everyone to hit. Every one of them to hit perfectly. In order to fully achieve the ending of the book. The series, really. So, we have other prophecies coming into play here, with Rand being on his funeral pyre surrounded by the 3 Midsommar women.
Yep.
Min herself references it. She's like, it's just like I foresaw. This is Rand's body, to be clear, not Rand himself. Rand is now in Morden's body at this point.
How are we even supposed to talk about this? I'm going to call Morden and Rand's body Randorin. And I'm going to call Rand and Morden's body
Morand.
Rand. M-R-A-N-D.
This is only going to confuse me more, but I support it.
Randorin and Rand. It's perfect.
It's foolproof.
No flaws at all. But yeah, Rand gets burned, and everyone's like, no, the Dragon Reborn, except for Cadsuane, who's like, I don't know about that.
I don't buy that.
Yeah.
And then she sees Moradin slinging off into the darkness and is like,
I don't know enough about, I'm no paleontologist.
I'm no paleontologist. I don't know about body snatching. She's like, wait a second.
Wait a minute.
But then she gets cornered to become the next Amyrlin seat, which, can you imagine a worse pick?
I know.
Than Cadsuane?
Literally.
A flop central.
Sylviana's right there. Just make her Amyrlin.
Sylviana, fucking... I guess a lot of Aes Sedai are dead.
Moiraine.
Moiraine. That would be fun. Moiraine as Amyrlin seat.
Yeah. It probably would have been more satisfying for her, too. Moiraine gets basically no ending.
Yeah.
Except standing next to Tom, looking at Rand's dead body.
Yeah, let's go through character endings. Perrin returns to the real world to look for, first he kind of runs around asking everybody, hey, do you know anything about Fail? Blah, 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 blah. He actually goes and visits Rand's dying body, which at least is nice of him.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of like, okay, bye. He gives Nynaeve a hug, which is also very sweet, because Nynaeve is very,
upset, obviously.
Upset, because she feels like she failed Rand. She has also heard the news that Egwene is dead. Now Perrin hears it too, so everyone's upset about that. But Perrin leaves to go and find Fail. He's so exhausted, can't find her anywhere amongst the, injured or dead, and is starting to think she's dead. He goes into the wolf dream, I think, actually dreaming, not his body, and has this, here's a falcon, and goes and finds where it is, and then he is able to, in the real world, go and find Fail, who is alive but wounded. We're not sure how badly
She's
injured.
literally under a horse with a troll lock on top of it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just logistically. He's like, she's in a little nook, so it's not like she's been completely crushed, but there is just a dead horse and a dead troll
Yeah,
lock
so
on
she
top
might
of
just
it.
be like not being able to breathe very well.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's able to get her healed, and so she is presumably going to be fine. I don't really have any beef with this. It is a callback, I think, to Perrin and Fail's sort of first romantic interlude back in book 3 when he was searching for her in the world of dreams still. Yeah, I don't know. I have no feelings about Fail being alive versus dead. It's just kind of like whatever. Yeah, at least there's some stability. Fail has to be Queen of Saldia now, so.
Rip. Yeah, I've got no beef with Fail dying, but I think one of the boys should have died.
Yeah.
Like, I think Rand truly should have died, or I think Matt or Perrin should have died. I don't think
agree.
it should have only been Egg that died. It really bothers me that it's only Egg. Obviously, I like Matt more, so I would like it to be Perrin, but I think there could be some really interesting thematic stuff if Matt had actually died after having died twice.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I agree. With the narrative that we were given, I think Rand was the most set up to actually be fit.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been a fine ending in terms of just, like, ultimately accepting that that's the sacrifice you have to make. I do think there are pros also to him not having to sacrifice his life. That's a very sort of interesting inversion of our usual chosen one Messiah, where Rand then gets to presumably have his own life free of responsibility.
Yeah, very Messiah imagery. I know we're jumping back to Rand, but Rand is really crawling out of a cave as rocks are rolling away. You will remember Jesus infamously, the rocks rolling away from his tomb.
Yeah, the tomb closes behind him, literally, as the boar is sealed.
And then he gets to have, his second life after one of Rand's many metaphorical deaths.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, I do think one of the boys should have died. I think either Matt or I think really any of them.
Yeah, any of them would have
fine.
worked in some way. Just because they all have so much going on archetypically and narratively that, like, as much as you never want to say a character's arc can only end in death.
Right.
You do want to set up a character whose narrative arc could end in death.
Yeah.
And have that be interesting and engaging. And I think the groundwork was laid for all 3 boys, which was good because it made you feel like their stakes were high, at least in this last book. So it is a little disappointing that then only Egg died. I agree, Matt, particularly with his sort of, like, interactions with death and the underworld would have been an interesting pick. Perrin also would have been interesting because, I don't know, it would have then been interesting to have Fail be the survivor of that pair.
Yeah, my husband died. And, I also just feel like Perrin was really playing with fire there at the end, that it would have been kind of satisfying for the consequences of all the shit he did to be like, oh yeah, he actually pushed his body way beyond the limit.
Yeah, Perrin got warned a lot that what he was doing was bad and dangerous, and it ended up being not that
Completely
bad or that
fine.
dangerous.
Yeah.
He slept for like 12 hours and then seemed to be okay.
Yeah, no big deal. So, it could have been fun if Matt had died and became, like, I know he doesn't want to become a hero of the Horn, but I think it would have been very funny for Matt to die and be like...
If Matt
me.
came back as a hero of the Horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought you'd seen the last of me, bitch.
Yeah, and everyone's like, great.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting thing, especially with, like, it would have allowed us to come full circle with Matt as Hornblower.
Yeah.
It also would have been a sort of narratively significant thing in that Matt is always tied to this, like, responsibility that he's trying to escape, and the idea of him sort of scampering around Teleron Riyadh as a hero of the Horn.
Incredible.
Evading the call.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Every time it's blown, Brigitte has to
like-
go pick him up like a
drag
little
him.
puppy.
Yeah, he gets to hang out with Brigitte the rest of his life.
On her Hawkwing.
Yeah, gets to
And
fuck all
Noel.
the heroes of the Horn, presumably.
Yeah.
I assume that they're all in a huge
Yeah,
polycule.
I mean, if you spend eternity with someone, you basically might as well be in a polycule. Or Egg could have been a hero of the Horn. That would have been really
No, that would have been nice if Egg came back. We don't see a lot of, like, channelers coming back as heroes of the Horn. I don't know what
Which
that's
is
about.
interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Food for thought.
But no, instead we got Matt having to interact with pregnant Tuon.
She's like, I'm with child. And he's like, great, then we can get divorced now. And she's like, or I could
"No."
kill you.
And Matt's like, tee-hee-hee.
I love
is a
this
satisfying
relationship.
ending
Yeah.
somehow. And you're like, I want to kill myself.
Great. It's so... one of the first things Emily told me about Matt's character, like, his name is Matrim, which is 3 letters short of matrimony. So, like, a big part of his arc is coming to marriage. So then, if that had been done in a fulfilling way, him being like, okay, now I'm stepping into the next part of that, which is fatherhood, could have been really satisfying, but I feel like the whole matrimony part was really fumbled
Rushed.
along the way in sort of the worst way possible. So it just ending just being like Matt's arc ends domestically.
Yeah, and in a very, like, weird sort of domesticity that is meant to make us feel like Matt will be satisfied with it because he won't be bored like he would in a traditional domestic sphere. Is also very weird. Yeah, I think, like, it's one thing to be like Perrin and Fail, who we have so much beef with as a relationship throughout the series, just ending up both alive and together and moving on to the next phase of their life. That's one thing, because at least the series has laid a ton of groundwork for their relationship and has given them sort of growth as a couple.
Yep.
But Tuon wasn't introduced until book 9. And then she and Matt were in a very adversarial relationship for the next, like, 3 books. They didn't, like... The implication is that they had sex one time, and she's now pregnant. Which, as we all know, is how it works.
That's how it works for Rand. Must be a Taviran thing. Perrin and Fail must be using condoms.
Yeah, I think we... Maybe Perrin and Fail don't have penetrative sex.
Oh, that would be even more exciting.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
If
The
they're
Perrin
just
gets
like,
pegged. Let's go, King.
Let's go, King. That's my Wolf King. Yeah, maybe Perrin doesn't have the super sperm gene like Matt and Rand apparently do. Yeah, so that already is on the verge of ludicrousness.
Yeah.
You know, whenever a series ends with, or a book ends with someone being like, and of course I'm pregnant, you're like,
Okay, what in the romance
I
novel?
roll, yeah.
Ice Planet Barbarians ass book.
Yeah. Obviously there's like there's so books are about exploring life and life stages.
Sure.
And major thresholds that people
Yes.
cross.
Yes,
That's why YA books are about the transition from childhood to adulthood. A lot of adult books are about death and dying and grief, or just moving on to the next stage of your life. So, of course, pregnancy comes into it. That's a major life event.
Sure.
And of course, we're introducing new life into the world that literally seconds ago was on the verge of breaking down. So I do understand that a lot of books end with pregnancies and that is thematically resonant. It's still a huge fucking cliche,
Yeah.
and it's still not working for Matt and Tuon, who have had sex once, and whose relationship is, shall we say, needs therapy.
Yeah. Like, toxic.
Yeah, pretty toxic
Cringy.
matrimony.
Yeah. Problematic, to use all these buzzwords. It's also just, like, not... Like, Fail would have been a better one to be like, I'm pregnant, you know? I think that would have had more, like, emotional impact as well. And also, like, we've been dealing with the idea of new life after the last battle with Elaine's 12-month pregnancy that we've been experiencing.
Her 2-week, 12-month pregnancy.
2 weeks,
yeah.
2 weeks slash
Something.
12 months. It's actually 6 months, you know, Elaine is going to be having the baby soon. It just didn't really hit for me. I was kind of like, this is laughable.
Yeah, Matt's, I think, definitely the character with the most sort of open-ended closing. I think that was, to a certain extent, intentional. I think I've heard all these rumors on the internet over the years that Robert Jordan would perhaps, if he meant to return to any of the worlds or characters in Wheel of Time, was going to do like a Matt Tuon book over on the Shanshan continent, which, yuck. But, it is true that, like, there is the most mystery in terms of what will happen with Matt and Tuon, just because we don't really understand how being in the Shanshan at that high of a level works. We don't really understand how serious Tuon is about possibly assassinating Matt, blah, 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 blah. Perrin and Fail, on the other hand, you know, there's a lot up in the air regarding the Saldean succession and sort of Perrin's leadership of the Two Rivers, but we can guess via our knowledge of this world that how that will pan out.
Yeah. The other weird thing the epilogue does is give Matt closure with the dagger, which
yeah.
is so interesting. Like that Matt like is standing above Padon's rotting body, and he almost grabs the dagger and then doesn't, and then the dagger melts away. And I just was like, this is such a silly thing to be giving Matt, to be like, this is the end of his arc, for the book to assert that the most important thing that happened to Matt was picking up this dagger, which was like a big inciting incident for him and how he lost his memories and got them filled. But it's just like, as we talked about last time, the dagger felt resolved a really long time ago.
Yeah, Matt's character arc, more than Rand's or Perrin's, I think was a very like zigzaggy one, where he was kind of going in one direction, then very abruptly got shunted off into another direction. And one of those shunts was in book 3 when he got healed of the dagger, and then immediately went a different direction. And so bringing us back to that point is a very like strange thing to do. Because Matt himself, it doesn't seem all that connected to the dagger. From a character growth perspective, it's meant to be like, oh, Matt has learned to resist temptation, as opposed to when he was a much younger character. But yeah, Matt has been that way.
Yeah.
Matt was only sort of a reckless character within the first trilogy, and that's when his character zagged, and he immediately became one of the most cautious characters in the series.
Yeah.
At least in terms of his own health and safety.
Yes. So, very silly.
So that's Matt and Perrin, sort of rounded up. Edwin's dead.
Rip.
Rip. Nynaeve has this sort of, like, tragic failure to heal Rand. And she realizes that something is going on because Elaine, Min, and Avienda do not seem to be grieving Rand as he is dying. Rookie mistake.
Yeah, the whole time I was like, this feels like a big flaw in your plan, ladies.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's gonna know that
Clock
something
that.
is weird. Like, you could at least... Like, everyone responds to grief differently, and someone's like, they're just in shock, and Nynaeve's like, not all three of them would probably be in shock in the same way, you know, that's...
Bizarre. Yeah, Elaine, Min, and Avienda are bonded to Rand via the Warder bond, so obviously if he actually beefed it, they would sort of descend into their wailing.
That too,
weeping and wailing. Granted, not everyone knows that they are bonded to Rand. I think they've pretty successfully kept that secret from most people, because a 4-way bond is such a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
But that is obvious to the readers then why they know that there's nothing to be worried about, because the bond with Rand isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But Nynaeve is like, okay, they are not reacting at all the way that they should, so she goes to, like, corner Avienda and be like, what the fuck is going on? And it is unclear whether Avienda tells her or whether Nynaeve will dig that out of anyone. Nynaeve reunites with Lan, and they are together. He's like, you were right. And she's like, yeah, I fucking always am, bitch.
Nynaeve also could have been pregnant. That could have been fun.
Could have been pregnant, yeah.
Could have had a female character, like a point of view character who isn't too on enjoy pregnancy. I guess there's Elaine, but I pretend to forget that. I like to forget that Elaine is here.
Yeah. Nynaeve should have been the Amyrlin seat. That
would have been
so funny.
Iconic.
She would have hated it, but...
She would have been pretty funny at it.
Yeah. Should have just
She's a
been
better choice than Cadsuane.
I know.
Literally, Tibble would be a better choice than Cadsuane. He's currently sniffing our coasters and licking them. Yeah, so Nynaeve and Lan are reunited in marital bliss. He was like, I ran off and did stupid things. And she's like, yeah, no shit. Bitch.
He's like, but I'm back. And she's like, there's no indication that their relationship will suffer from any of this. There's really not much going on with Nynaeve at all. The author seemed to have written her off quite a bit in this book.
It's really sad.
Which is sad. I do think they didn't give Nynaeve a lot to do in this series generally. Nynaeve has more or less always been a character who is there to provide us perspectives on other characters. It's sort of her responsibility as this maternal figure to the rest of the Two Rivers people. Which is just a general flaw in the blueprint, but, not much going on for her. Elaine, Min, and Avienda. Avienda has sustained some major damage from whatever happened with Grendel and getting blown up, but, And there's some ambiguity of whether she will be able to walk again.
Yeah, she walks with, like, help.
Yeah. Whether she'll be able to, like... They're like, she'll probably be able to walk again, but she won't be, like, as mobile
Sure,
as she
definitely
was.
going to be disabled in some function, but it's just, like, they should have committed. Mm-hmm. She should have had a cool wheelchair.
Yeah, that would have been sick. Elaine has one last conversation with Brigitte before Brigitte pieces out. Brigitte tells us that she told Oliver to literally throw the Horn of Valir into the ocean, which is like, okay,
Iconic.
yeah, fair enough.
Elaine's plan was to keep Oliver hostage in Andor.
Yeah.
And use him and the Horn of Valir as, like, a fucking...
And Brigitte's like, obviously I told him to throw it in the ocean. And Elaine's like, thank you for taking that choice away from me. And I'm like, well, Elaine, you could have also just not made that choice.
You could have not kept a child as a weapon of mass destruction.
That's insane, girl. So Elaine has not grown at all.
Elaine, from the first time we met her until now, has been an insufferable princess, quite literally.
Just terrible. Oh, Forsaken Watch. Moghedien did survive the cannon blast, but is immediately collared by the Shanshin, who ship her off. So we have yet another female Forsaken not dying, but instead being imprisoned, humiliated in some way. This isn't even just female Forsaken, this is female antagonists, generally.
Yeah, she's gonna go join Aleda in the maligned evil woman camp.
Yeah, obviously the effect of doing this repeatedly, especially with the Shanshin collaring, is that you end up with this perspective that this sort of narrative eagle eye of being like, well, then the women who are collared are the ones who deserve it.
Yep.
Which is heinous.
Yep.
So just another flop there. Grendal's still alive, although presumably no longer autonomous at all.
Yeah, we get no closure on whether or not she's just following Avienda around.
Yeah, like, is she going to be executed? Anything like that? Is Nynaeve going to take the compulsion off of her? Or anything like that? We do not know.
The narrative doesn't care.
Doesn't care, yeah. And Moradin dies in Rand's body and is burned. He's given a state honors, a funeral with honors.
Rand notes he's like, Moradin is getting burned with all the honors of the Dragon Reborn. And I'm like, would Moradin love this or hate this?
Moradin would be like,
lose the ring!
I hate you!
Yeah.
Yeah, he would hate the indignity of it, I assume. Or maybe he'd love it. Maybe he just had that much of a parasocial relationship with Rand.
Maybe he'd be so thrilled to be dead.
Yeah.
Just to finally...
He's just like, thank fuck. I can die. Maybe that's why... I mean, yeah, there's some implication when you think of it that, like, that's why one of them got better and one of them didn't. Moradin always wanted to die, and Rand didn't.
Yeah.
Is that everyone? Other things that are wrapped up... We see Iturald getting roped into being the next king of Eredomon.
Poor guy.
Because apparently that king died off screen, so it wasn't relevant to us. I don't know why we need to know that Iturald is the next king. We see Cadsuane getting picked to be the next Amyrlin seat, which Cadsuane herself doesn't want, and we the readers do not want. We see Tam sort of lighting the fire on Rand's funeral pyre. Tam himself, of course, assumes that Rand is dead, and no one tells him differently.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah, even though, like, if you were gonna share the secret with anyone, it would probably be Tam.
Yeah.
That's a sad ending to sort of his and Rand's relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moiraine just sort of watches. Moiraine also clueless, we assume.
Yeah, Moiraine also given fuck all to do in this series after she tackled Lanfear through that door.
Yeah, she
Rescuing
came back
Hermit,
to
nothing.
literally do nothing.
Yeah, came back, did nothing, got married.
Goodbye.
Flop.
Yeah.
Flop.
Loyal's wandering around trying to gather data for his book. Eyewitness accounts and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think that's all the characters except Rand.
Here we are, back with the man himself.
Here we are, back with the man, the myth, the legend. Rand. Okay. The weird things with Rand are as follows.
Bitch. I would hate to be in my arch nemesis's body for the rest of my... I guess Rand doesn't think of Moradin as his arch nemesis.
Yeah, one thing I do really like is how Robert Jordan went out of his way to establish that Moradin is a smoke show before this. He's like, don't worry, he's mega hot. And we were all like, well, why does that matter? And they're like, well, Because he's very Rand.
We just went and saw the ballet adaptation of Jekyll and Hyde, which
was bad.
was not good. But the final scene where Jekyll and Hyde are like wrestling for control is like so deeply homoerotic.
They're both wearing flesh-colored Spanx.
Yeah. And nothing else.
Nothing else. Yeah, so like when you first see them sort of in dim lighting, you're like, oh, is that dude fully naked? And then, no, he's wearing flesh-colored Spanx, but then they sort of wrestle around for a little while, and you're like, it probably would have been less erotic if they were just naked, because then it would at least be, like, kind of awkward.
Yeah, everyone would just be like, oh, I don't know if I should watch,
I don't know if
but
I
they're,
should
like,
switch.
running their hands over each other's body. It's just, like, very homoerotic, and I couldn't help but think of that with being, like, Rand and Moradin, like,
Sort of in the
swapping
internal
bodies.
Yeah, did they explore each other's bodies in the last moments of their lives together?
We have no idea. They've also been very homoerotic coded.
They have, these sort of philosophical debates. Ooh, sexy.
Imagine thinking Moradin is sexy. I mean, Robert Jordan did, apparently.
Robert Jordan was mad horny for Moradin.
Yeah, he's like, Moradin is 6'4", built like a brick shit house.
Dark
long,
hair.
lustrous black hair.
And blue eyes. So we're like, okay, so he just still looks like Rand, except Rand with dyed hair. That's so awkward.
Okay, anyway, Rand.
Rand, in carrying Moradin's body out of the cave, hallucinates someone kneeling next to him and being like, this is what you need to do. And it's this hallucination is a woman wearing ale clothing. So you may remember Avienda's weird vision quest in the last book when we were like, who's the fuck is this lady?
Yeah.
Well, here's her single reappearance, I guess. And I guess the implication is still that she's God? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what Brandon Sanderson was going for here, and it's not satisfying in any way, shape, or form. It just is weird.
And it's like, doesn't Rand already, it feels like Rand already had a plan. I don't really know what she's telling him.
Yeah, she's like, this is what, and he's like, what? We're like, what are you talking about? He is like, I understand now. We have to be able to choose. If we don't choose, then we're just puppets. And we're like, yeah, didn't you have that epiphany like 17 points of view ago? When the Dark One was like, here's a world without agency? Very weird for you to be having it again. But I guess I'll excuse you because you're on the death's door hallucinating. Anyway, Rand achieves full body swap.
Don't ask questions about that.
Don't fucking ask questions.
Just, nope.
Don't wonder about how that is pulled off mechanically. There's no sort of precedent for it in the series, really, but here we are.
You're just supposed to be like, well, the weird shit happens at Shale Goal, you know. You never know when you might swap bodies.
Rand wakes up while his body is being burned outside and is like, oh, sweet, I don't have chronic pain anymore, and also my limb is back. And then he's like, oh, look, I'm in Moradin's face. He does have like one of those little weird marks in his eye that you get from channeling the true power, which I just imagine makes him look like an Uchiha from Naruto. So
Yeah, it obviously does.
yeah.
This is Sasuke Uchiha. Hey,
Yeah.
don't bump the mic, please. You don't need to sit with Emily. Okay, yes, he does. Tybalt is here. Yeah, just a note. This is going to surprise no one. I think it sucks that Rand loses all of his disabilities in the final. Like, I know it's a mechanic of changing into a new body that was able-bodied, but it's kind of like, what was the point then?
Yeah.
You know? Like, why did Rand have to go through all this suffering? And, like, it just, again, as every time a disability is cured magically, it's just like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's not worth figuring out how to live with your disability. Disabled people don't deserve space on the page. What we need to do is find a way to fix them.
Yeah, I would have accepted his, like, the wounds in his side going away just because those were his Fisher King wounds.
Those are magic.
Related to the land. But yeah, now having two limbs again, where before he only had one, is, like, overkill. At least Moradin should have also lost a hand, and then that would have been interesting. Had his hand burned up from holding Kalendor or something.
That'd be fun.
That would have been sick. Anyway, Rand is like, oh, sweet. There's no indication that he is surprised by this. Just kind of like disoriented for a minute, and then he's good to go. He dresses, gathers up his money, leaves the tent, spots Cadsuane. They kind of make awkward eye contact. Then he sort of scampers away, and Cadsuane gets cornered, so he doesn't have to deal with it. He has a very odd moment where he has a pipe in his pocket. Like,
Is that a pipe in your pocket?
Is that a pipe? Yeah, Rand has, I guess all the boys sort of smoke occasionally, but
Yeah. I feel like Rand has smoked the least.
yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe Perrin. Anyway, Matt smokes all the time.
Yeah, Matt
Smoking
does.
tobacco.
Yeah, that should have just been full cigarettes. That would have
Agreed.
been
Yeah.
iconic. Rand is like, goes to light it with channeling and is like, oh, I don't have channeling anymore. He also does not have access to the true power. But then he just sort of thinks about the pipe being lit, and it is. So he doesn't have magic powers, he has divine powers, which is different
Which is stupid.
and weird. It's so weird.
What?
I have no idea why this happens or what it's meant to indicate to us.
Dumb.
Especially because Rand is all like so jazzed to have a normal life now.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, like I can get into that with you just because you're so excited. Like Rand is
Yeah.
so palpably delighted to no longer have to be the Dragon
Yeah.
Reborn. And he never was excited to be the Dragon Reborn, so in a way I'm like happy for him, you know?
Absolutely.
But a lot of what he didn't want was this sort of magic power and the ability to do crazy things. And so him just having like these weird, unexplained, unprecedented thought powers is bizarre. And seems like it's undercutting that resonance. Like if you want Rand to just be a normal dude, then make him a normal dude.
Yeah. Get some matches like the rest of us.
Yeah. Have him fucking fumble making fire. Survivor
Like
style.
Survivor, yeah.
So that's wild. Then he thinks a little bit about his 3 wives and is like, ooh, tee-hee, I wonder which one of them will come after me. And I'm like, well, Elaine has to rule a country. And Avienda is also important in her people. And Min is jobless, so I think I can guess.
I think I can guess which one of your flop girlfriends is going to follow you.
But also, why are you even like... The way Rand talks about it is weird. It takes us back to like book 6 or 7 where he's like, oh, I'm so weird and horny for being in love with 3 women. I can't believe it. And you're like, what? I thought we were way past this.
Yeah, same. I was like, okay, I'm over it. You should be over it, freak.
And then Rand is just like, this'll be fun, and I'll be able to sort of live my life. And he rides away into the sunset. Ow.
We end on our classic Wheel of Time mechanic of the wind that always introduces the books. It is now exiting us out of the book.
Yeah, instead of the wind being a beginning,
Yeah.
not the beginning, but a beginning, it's an ending, not the ending
ending, yep.
of the Wheel of Time.
And then, of course, we get some little snippets.
Some little epigraphs.
Yeah. One from Loyal and one from
The dragon, what's it called?
Carathian Cycle or
Yeah,
whatever.
more or less, that are just like, here's what the Dragon Reborn is.
Gosh, thank you so much for telling me. I really spent the last 14 books being incredibly confused about what that meant.
I do think I am not sure exactly how much, but I do know parts of this were written by Robert Jordan before he died. I would assume the very last Rand section was. I do understand the impulse to preserve that unedited, but I'm also like, it leaves us with some confusing problems and questions that Robert Jordan did not resolve before passing away, and apparently did not equip Brandon Sanderson to resolve, so maybe we should have done some light editing, you know. But that's it.
That's the Wheel of Time, baby.
That's the Wheel of Time. That's the book. That's A Memory of Light. It ended with Rand having his about as happy an ending as he could have. Same with Perrin and Matt. And I guess Nynaeve. Edwin's still dead.
Rip.
Yeah, no state funeral for her.
Yeah, what the hell?
Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. we obviously need to, like, ruminate on this and come
Yeah.
back to achieve some closure.
Yeah.
So although this is the last time we'll be talking about the plot, like going blow by blow through the plot of the book, we're going to come back for an episode where we sort of talk about the series at large and our overall feelings now that it's over. And then we might do a Q&A episode where we answer any last questions that you guys have if we don't manage to answer them in the next
Yeah.
episode, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
That's the plan right now.
Yeah, so it's not going to be the last time you hear from us, though it definitely feels weird. Definitely feels like a book closing, not only a memory of light, but on this project.
Yes, end of a chapter.
Who knows, maybe one day we'll go back to Path of Daggers.
Oh, don't promise them that.
In like 10 years.
Don't imply that. Yeah, maybe in 20 years when I've recovered a little. When I'm not traumatized.
You just read Path of Daggers
By the
raw,
thought.
not read the first 7.
I think if I ever read Wheel of Time again, it will just be The Dragon Reborn,
Yeah.
and then I'll stop and be
Yeah.
like, well, that was great.
That was so nice. I had
so
such a
nice.
great time in that book.
Don't think about anything else
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah, it feels weird, but we'll be back. I'm excited to do some thinking over the next week about the series. It was my first time reading it, as you all know, so it's my first time finishing it, which also feels really odd. And just kind of talk about, the book.
Yeah, that
Our
was my
experiences
third
reading
full
it.
time.
Wow.
Yes.
What a princess. What an icon. What a legend.
It's gotten worse over the years,
Yeah, it
unfortunately.
tends to happen with things.
Yeah, we'll leave you on that, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks to Glenna McKenzie, as always, for our theme song.
Yeah.
Thanks to our patrons on Patreon and our followers on social media.
Yeah, I love you guys so much. I had therapy today, and I was talking about how we're recording the last proper episode, and I was just talking about you guys and how much I love you, little weirdos, and how grateful I am that you're in our lives and all the joy and silliness and companionship you've brought us over the years. So
We like you all a lot.
we sure do.
Do you have a sign off?
Oh, let's think. What's a good one? I was in San Antonio last week. I went to a K-pop concert with my concert friend, Elise, famous roommate at the beginning of this podcast.
Elise, who's been there literally since the beginning.
Yep, since the beginning. We went to a concert of one of my favorite groups. And one of these things this group does at the end is, like, they play one of their very famous songs just, like, for a really long time. It's sort of hard to explain the bit, but it'll just, like, keep going. And part of this is they'll, like, snag people in the audience to, like, dance to different
that's cute.
things. Yeah, it's really sweet. They do a lot of fun fan interaction. But while this was happening, I started having an asthma attack, like my first genuine asthma attack of my life. There was just a lot of smoke during the concert, and it was really stuffy. And I had my inhaler, so it was like I was fine. But I, even after using my inhaler, was just like hacking and hacking and hacking. And everyone around me was like, what's happening? And I'm like, because everyone is looking at me, I am terrified that the camera is going to land on me.
And you'll have to dance.
And I'll have
while
to hold up
coughing.
my inhaler and be like, I'm so sorry. Nope.
Can't do it.
No, I'm so sorry. And my poor friend Elise was like, do you need to leave? And I was like, no, I can do it. But I seriously, like, my chest hurt so bad. And everyone around me was like, could you maybe shut the fuck up? I'm trying to listen. No, they were all very sweet to me. It was a sweet group of people.
Oh, man.
But the camera didn't land on me. I just had
Thank God.
the asthma.
Yeah, you always
Yeah.
have to worry about being on the Jumbotron, more or less.
Yeah, there was a very funny, they like to snag people's boyfriends and dads who come. So there's this boyfriend who was like sitting and like wouldn't dance, but his girlfriend was so iconic, she started twerking in his face. And the group was like, we don't really know what to do with this. What are you doing? She was amazing. If you happen to be listening, I love you.
Good for her.
Yeah.
The same energy as the guy who brought Panda Express to 50 Shades 3.
I forgot about that
Ate
guy.
all his Panda Express, promptly fell asleep.
He-
I think about him every day.
He is very famous in this
Yeah.
household.
That was on Valentine's Day, so
Yeah.
he was true boyfriend energy. Love him.
I hope his Panda Express was delicious.
I do too. All right, everyone. Talk
Bye,
to you
love
next
you.
week.